That would be a yes.
That would be a yes. Oh, how about you, Dana? Can we start with you for wins for this week?
For me,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been a good week. I was late to the cleanse, but it's been a week. And Jamie, I stole a page out of your book. I wasn't supposed to get on the scale, but I did. And I'm down 3.5 pounds, so I'm gonna take that. And just the overall feeling better and energy and yes, my body loves water, apparently. So that's my
That's
wins. Yeah, and excited about today.
that's great. Who would like to share next? Or I will call on you.
Don't make her do it.
All right, let's go with Jamie. What are your wins for the week?
My wins for the week are staying consistent with my food. I really have found I feel really good. I mean, when we started this, my energy was tanking at like 10 in the morning, and I'm good. I'm good all day long. Like it's amazing. So I'm noticing a huge difference with that. And then I've just been moving every day. So added the weights and, just the every other day thing that we talked about last weekend. And yeah, added in, I mean, we've had nice weather, so it's been easier to get out and walk too. So added that in. So I would say like my wins are just getting into it now. And I'm feeling it, like physically, mentally, emotionally feeling it. Actually, I mean, we're on the hormone thing. I got my monthly yesterday, and it was like a night and day difference from the last, like, I don't know, 6 to 9 months. So sorry.
Yay! That's wonderful.
Good.
Thank you for sharing. Tracy.
I'm kind of with Jamie. Like I feel good. I still have a little bit of a lull in the morning, but like not like it was. Like I'd be 4 or 5 hours where I'm like, oh, if I could just go back to bed. So I feel great. Um, the routine of it all is just getting so much easier. I'm knowing what I haven't got enough of. I know like halfway through the day, like, oh man, I'm gonna have to figure this out before, because I don't have near enough protein in yet. Um, so that's really good. Um, I'm a scale junkie, so I always get on, but it doesn't affect me mentally. I mean, if it was going up, it would obviously. Um, but yeah, and just knowing what I need to do and um this morning I was saying, oh, well, what must be nice to my husband. It must be nice you get to go have a cup of coffee. And I've been having lemon water every morning. He goes, you're almost done. I'm like, actually, I just said that because it's not even bothering me as much like the first week. I thought I was going to die. So, so I don't mind it. Of course, I'm looking forward to it again, but no, I feel great.
Awesome. And Trizanne.
My wins this week are I have to readjust my hormone dosage. So I would past would have taken it on as, oh, I've done something wrong. But it's like, it is what it is. So I did not. And then I've been consistent with my food, which is monumental. And I probably got a lot of my steps in this week, which I haven't even tracked in the past, but I did this week.
Great. Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, for me, I stepped on the scale today and I'm down 2 pounds, but that's not the win. The win was when I started the cleanse. I was very fatigued all day with low energy, and now I seem to have more energy I'm not needing to take a nap in the middle of the day, and I'm not needing to go to bed by 8 p.m.
Good job.
So that's really good. And I did do my measurements, and swelling is going down. So I've lost an inch under my chest. My swelling is not around my waist, so my waist did not show anything, but I also lost a half an inch around each of my thighs.
Nice.
So we know it works. It works. You know, even if you're not perfect, it works. It just takes a little bit longer. So, hi, Alicia. Welcome. So glad
Hi.
to see you.
Hi, I'm here.
Would you be able to share a win? I know what one of your wins is.
I mean, I've had lots of wins. The only thing I'm really not doing is probably tracking, and I'm drinking coffee right now.
Well, we're
And
worried more about your wins and not your challenges.
but everything else, I mean, when it's not exceptionally cold out, I've been getting a walk in, maybe not the 20 minutes, but still getting it in and doing like my vibration plate. And it's even hard for me to talk right now. But with my daughter being in the hospital, I'm just like in this constant state of anxiety, even though I'm doing things right. And it's out of my control, really, because it's related to my brain cyst and it presses on my amygdala. And then I just have so much going on, it's gonna just have to process. Like it's just gonna take time for that to calm down. But it makes everything feel out of control. Like even when I'm doing it 100%, it just still feels like overwhelming, like doom. Because I mean, if you have a cyst pushing on the area of your brain that causes anxiety, it's been hard for me to recognize my wins. I went to lunch yesterday and had a cran raisin chicken salad with only balsamic on it, and that's a huge win when they had like juicy cheeseburgers there.
Exactly.
But I just feel like I'm on the verge of like hyperventilating, and it's making it hard for me. And also, when this happens, I have to read something like 7, 8 times to comprehend it. And I'm just like overwhelmed because I feel like I'm falling behind. And then I feel like a loser. And I know that's not wins, but that's kind of like I feel overwhelmed by everything right now. And it sucks.
Okay. Yeah, that is a lot. You're not a loser. Life has happened. And you're dealing with it in the best way you can. And that's all that you can do. And you're here. And that's what matters. You made it here. So we are let's see where everybody's at. Because we all started the cleanses at different phases. How many people have made it up to day 14 of the cleanse?
Tomorrow.
Okay. Because the next step is reintroduction. And remember, if you're feeling like you haven't had as noticeable of a reduction in symptoms as you wanted, you can continue the cleanse up to 6 weeks. So, but reintroduction, when I went through the program the first time, I was feeling so good on the cleanse that I was literally afraid of reintroduction. And what I did was I just extended the cleanse out to the full 6 weeks. And that I really think helped me be able to identify the symptoms when they came on, because my body was so cleaned out and the inflammation was reduced so well that when I started going through a reintroduction and the symptoms would happen, like a stuffy nose. Well, what time of year is this? You know, it's like, well, do I really want to give up dairy? I don't think I want to give up dairy. So I'm not going to say this stuffy nose is a result of the dairy. But what I did do was instead of talking myself out of it, I said, let's pull the little science person in me out of this. If you can reproduce it twice, it's not a coincidence. So what I did was I did my 3-day cleanse. The stuffy nose went away, ate the dairy again, stuffy nose came back. You know, there was the proof for me. At that point, I started really trusting the symptoms. I already knew about the gluten. I knew I had problems with the gluten. But what I learned this time with the gluten was that it actually increased my depressive feelings. So, you know, it was a very enlightening experience for me. Then with corn, I increased, my joint pain came back and my anxiety increased. And I would not have known that if I had just tested the food for 1 or 2 days and not gone back. I had to go back. That was me, because I didn't want to give up the foods. And it was, that was all there was to it. I didn't want to. But afterwards, I had to change my mindset. Instead of looking at it as a restriction and, oh no, I can't have these foods anymore, it clicked. These foods are not good for me. They're harmful for me. And if they're harmful for me, if I'm eating them intentionally, what am I doing? I'm intentionally self-harming. And when I came to that realization, it made it a lot easier for me to stay away from all of those foods. And in doing so, everything started melting. I literally, every check-in, there were weight changes and body fat changes and inches changed. So, you know, take your reintroduction with the good and the bad. The symptoms are going to happen if they do. And if they do, you just do the 3-day cleanse and you go in and then you start with the next food. Let's see.
Teresa, I have a question.
Yes.
I've done the cleanse before and I stayed on longer. I guess this time I'm out. I want to know what, not that there's a formula, I don't mean that, but what makes us go, I need to stay on that another week? Is it just how we feel, measurements? Me personally, some of it is locking myself down. Like, you went so out of control, not to imprison myself. I don't mean it's a punishment, but like, I think I need this reinforced a little bit. Is that legit?
I would feel so.
Okay.
You know, first, the cleanse foods are good even during, you need them during reintroduction, right? You're still eating the cleanse foods during reintroduction. You're just changing your macros. But if you need more to get the habits solidified, then go for it. Extend it to the 6 weeks if you need to. It won't hurt you. It will only benefit you.
And you know, last time, a year ago when I did this, nothing bothered me when I reintroduced it. It's interesting later on, and Lydia, you'll appreciate this. I went to coconut milk, and I'm a coffee girl, but like 1 cup. I'm not the big all day long girl, but I love my heavy whipping cream when I can have it. I went to coconut milk and I like it. It's not as creamy, but I don't think, none of them showed that they bothered me. I mean, how I felt, but I do know now gluten is not my friend. It bloats me like a freight train. So even though last year it didn't show, when I came back on, I'm like, yeah, no, you are not my friend. You are my enemy. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to come off to do the reintroduction phase this time and maybe be a little bit more sensitive. Or I like what you said you did. You actually went back on the cleanse for a couple of days and then reintroduced?
When you experience symptoms during reintroduction, you need to cleanse your system out for 3 days
Okay.
so that the inflammation goes back down.
Okay.
That way you don't have a compounding effect, because for some people, they may be mildly sensitive to 1 or 2 ingredients, but if they eat those 1 or 2 ingredients back to back, then it's a compounding effect in inflammation.
Got it.
So I know that like with me, as long as I have been gluten-free consistently for 2 weeks, I can eat gluten at one meal and not experience the discomforts of the symptoms. But that doesn't mean that I'm not inflaming my body. And I cannot have gluten and corn in the same week. That's like no way. So I have to be very, very careful about what I call stacking the foods that I'm sensitive to, because they're always adding to the inflammation in your body.
Got it.
Does anybody else have questions? No questions, no concerns?
I have
Okay,
a question about the cleanse. Why is it bad to stay on it past 6 weeks?
because your calories are reduced, and they're reduced more than they would be under the reintroduction phase. And when your calories are reduced, your body slows down the metabolism. And you don't want to do that, because that then messes up your hormones. So you can stay on the cleanse foods as long as you readjust your macros so that you're getting the proper amounts of carbs and protein. I mean, carbs and fat with your protein.
So when we go into reintroduction, we increase our calories?
Correct. When you
Okay.
go into reintroduction, you're going to change your macros.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
All right. No other questions or comments? Are you watching the videos? Okay. Just so you know, if you have any problems with any of the technology part, reach out to me. I need feedback. And I only know that people are looking at the materials if they'd let me know, hey, we got a problem. Like, there was a guide issue. So yeah, I was like, what do you mean you only have the first page? But I got it fixed before everybody else experienced it. So that was good. So, well, if there are no more questions, I want to thank you, ladies. And it's great. I want to let you know, you have encouraged me. I come to these sessions to keep myself in the loop, to keep myself remotivated. And whenever I start feeling down, I celebrate you when you're having your wins. And it lets me know that I'm okay. This is my journey. I'm not racing you. So I'm really enjoying being in the group. Thank you, Dana. At this point in the game, I think we will turn it over to Lydia and see what we've got a lot of information this weekend. So you're going to have a lot of changes to your routine from the cleanse. But if you're not at that state, you don't have to implement those changes yet. Just know that they're coming when you're done with the cleanse. All right. And I guess we will turn it over to Lydia.
Thanks, Teresa. And Rye will be joining us a little later today, and he'll be with us tomorrow. But Teresa, isn't she a great coach? She really is. I'm like, Teresa, you know the system, so she's been with us long enough. My sister and I were talking about you a couple weeks ago, because I was like, yeah, Teresa said it's been 20 years. She goes, yeah, remember the first time she walked into the gym? I'm like, my God, it's like, so many different lives, right? So it's very cool. Anyway, amazing job, Teresa. Thank you for leading us off this morning. And ladies, give yourself a hand. Come on, like engage. The tears are good. The emotions are good, because sometimes I know Jamie, I want to call you out because I know it's like, why am I crying? I don't want to be crying, but there's stuff in our heart and there's issues in our tissues, right? So sometimes it's not just always hormones, but there's things that we're releasing. And you guys need to congratulate yourself because you showed up today, right? You're here and you're seeing the results, and we'll talk more about that. But I have a question for you, and I got some cool things for you today. It's a big weekend. I was so excited last night, just thinking things through. I really wish we were in person, but this is great. This saves you money. I'll tell you the truth. So, but who's ready to step into new levels of success for their life, not just their health, but for their life this weekend? Say me, type in the chat, wave your hand, say me. Yes, I know I sure am. Me.
Mhm.
So one of the things I read the other day, it says, show me your routine and I'll show you your goals. Show me your kitchen cabinets and I'll show you your health. Show me your journal and I'll show you your values. Show me your calendar and I'll show you what truly matters most to you. I was like, whoa. Why am I sharing that with you? Because you're showing up for yourself. Do you guys know what Tuesday is? Anybody? Tuesday marks 30 days for you of actually showing up. You're like, wait a minute. No, because on January 4th, you showed up to the master class. And although there's been things in the way, what we call life, you're still showing up. That's huge. Give yourself a high five. High five, guys. Give me a high five. Boom, boom, boom. So don't despise. In the Bible, it says Zechariah 4:8, and I have it listed everywhere. Do not despise small beginnings, right? Because small sustainable changes in the right direction yield huge results. And that's how we create new habits. You're showing up for yourself. You're actually putting yourself first, even though it might feel like a struggle. And those are some of the things that we're gonna talk about today. You're used to a lot. Our master class is a little different, right? Because we talk about some mindset stuff. Over the last few weeks, we've talked about a lot of nutrition stuff, but today we're combining it, right? This weekend we're combining it because our whole goal is to improve your quality of life, right? The reason Ryan and I do what we do is to improve your quality of life, and quality of life really does start with your health, because it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you can't enjoy it, if you can't show up for it, if you don't have the energy for it, if you don't have the mental capacity for it, it just doesn't matter, right? But one of the things that we found is, like, over the process of years of working with women, is that we leave before we're ready. And I'm going to talk more about that. But this weekend, we're going to talk about lids and labels and breaking free from those lids and labels of things that we've grown up for, or grown up from, or experienced over the past years. We're going to go over the Hormone Macro Code. We're going to identify some customization for you and moving forward, right? But just always remember that even though we're going over things this weekend and we are customizing things, it's not a race. Right? You're in a marathon. Because remember, back in the master class, I said, give yourself a year. Give yourself a year and you won't recognize yourself for a year. Right? So it doesn't matter how many times you start. Right? I'm not going to say stop. It doesn't matter how many times you start. It matters that you keep starting, that you keep showing up, that you keep being consistent. So with that, one of the things I want to do, because I feel like there's a little bit of angst, and there's joy, but we have angst as well. So one of the things I want to do with you guys, like right now, is I just want you to put your pens down, put your phones down. I want you to sit up straight. I want you to roll your shoulders back. Posture is huge. Posture is showing up they call it a power pose. Really, think about your superpower. Superwoman, well, you know, Wonder Woman. You have all the superheroes. You have the, you know, the superhero punch, you have the superhero landing, and you have the superhero stance. And it's real stuff. It's funny, right? But it's like when we roll our shoulders back and when we stand up straight, that actually changes the energy in our body. So I want you to start thinking about your power pose. Because I'll be upfront with you. One of the things, the way I was brought up, and maybe some of you guys can relate to this. It was pretty much we were to be seen and not heard. And sometimes even in our household, we weren't even to be seen. So I had a tendency to walk around hunched over, to like, you know, creep into a room, try to be quiet, and that, for those that know me, I'm not a quiet person, right? So I have to remind myself often to, like, even when I'm walking through the doorway, all right, Lydia, head up, shoulders back, and command the room. And it changes my energy. And now, one of the things, why I'm sharing, like when I talk about commanding a room, I'm walking in a room where nobody's there. It's constantly changing my state. Tony Robbins talks about it. What is going to change your state? Just like smiling is going to change your state. Like, say I'm sad, smiling. It's awkward, right? So think about that. But okay, so now we're sitting back, we roll our shoulders back. What I want you to do is I want you to take your hands and palm side up and put them both on your knees. Make sure that both of your feet are flat on the ground. So we're sitting up, our shoulders back, our hands up, palms up, and sitting on our knees. Now I want you to close your eyes. And what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in and we're going to hold it for 4, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to release it. And we're going to breathe in. We're going to breathe in confidence. 2, 3, 4. We're going to exhale insecurity. We're going to breathe in focus. 2, 3, 4. We're going to exhale distraction. We're going to breathe in peace. 2, 3, 4. We're going to exhale despair. We're going to breathe in abundance. 2, 3, 4. And we're going to exhale lack. We're going to breathe in joy. 2, 3, 4. We're going to exhale sadness. Last one. We're just going to breathe in 2, 3, 4. And we're going to exhale. How you guys feel? Just that little thing, right? That's one of the things that I do every night when I go to bed. And I pull out as much as I can of like breathing in the positive and exhaling the negative. And I do it right before I go to sleep. But you can do that anytime to reset your state. I lay flat on my back. I have my hands put on my heart. I just breathe in 2, 3, 4, and exhale. Simple exercise that you can start doing. What are your thoughts right now? Share them with me.
Good. I'm ready.
Just- You ready? Let's do this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, just feeling the differences already with everything, and sort of enlightening. I've always thought gluten and dairy were people that had the stomach issues with things. And because I don't know, I never thought I felt any different, but it is a difference. There is a difference. So I've been educated, I've been enlightened, and yeah, it's been really good. So I'm just ready. I just feel like this is, even like yesterday, I was a little, like, oh, get to the workout or whatever, just doing it. And I mean, pushing through that, because it was a little cloudier, and I knew I had to travel a lot yesterday, and I thought I have to get this in because I'm going to be in a car longer. And I'm so glad I did it. It's just like it kind of got me going for the day, and the car ride was great. And, I don't know. It's just like stepping into it and doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to push past it and just do it. And even a little bit, like I didn't do the full thing I was hoping to do. I keep comparing back to my workouts I used to do 10 years ago. And I feel like I'm not doing the things, but I am doing the things. It's just like you said, those small changes, those 1% compound. And I thought, it's better than nothing. It's better than a kick in the pants.
Yeah, right.
So
That's perfect. Like what you said, as far as compound, and doing what you can is better than doing nothing. But also, one of the things that Ryan and and you'll hear Ryan talk about it tomorrow, I'm sure, is minimum effective dose. When I worked in my corporate position and we would do formulas, so I would work with them, say, okay, this is the hot ingredient right now, and we want to create a supplement or something around it so we could market it. And we would look at the science. It's one thing that I pride myself in. We looked at the science and we put in the effective dose, right? So, because sometimes I want you to think about it, is when you buy a supplement, and this is important because moving forward with your formula, your recipes and stuff, but we a company can often say, they could put a drop of something in to say it's in there versus the actual effective dose. And then sometimes we'll look at a supplement and say, well, this one has 10 milligrams and this one has 250 milligrams. I'll get the 250 milligrams, but really the effective dose is 10 milligrams, right? So thinking about the effective dose. So more is not always the effective dose. So keeping that in your brain, and you said something about compounding, and I'm so glad you said that, right? Because I have a question for you, and you've probably had this question before, and you could type in the chat. Would you rather have $1 million today, right now, or would you rather have a penny doubled every day for the next 30 days? You can comment in the comments, which would you want? Trust is so smart, right? You guys are so smart because you heard it before, right? Albert Einstein, I wrote this down. Albert Einstein is quoted as saying, compounding interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays for it. Wow, right? But you're like, what does interest, right? Because you think about that compounding effect, critical mass, right? Because a penny doubled a day for 30 days, what do you end up with? You end up with 5 million, right? And this is calculator use for me, because once I got to like 32, I was like, I'm like, all right, so tomorrow I would have 2 pennies. I'm good with money. I'm not always good with math, but okay. So you would have $5,368,709.12 in 30 days. What? So what's that have to do with your health? Well, I was, years ago when I started into the network marketing industry, I was 27. I was still a baby, right? I was a kid. And even though I knew how to make money and I knew how to hustle, I didn't know business. And I did sure as heck didn't know network marketing. And I had this mentor, and there's a reason I'm telling you, I had this mentor. He says to me, Andy, he says, Lydia, he goes, everything that you do today will pay you 90 days from now. He goes, but you have to be consistent in showing up. And every 90 days, you measure, monitor, and adjust. Don't change before then, but showing up consistently and measure, monitoring, adjust in 90 days. And what's going to happen in a year from now, you won't recognize your business because critical mass will take over. And when I really understood that and honed in, he wasn't kidding, because I went from making very little inconsistently to quadrupling my income, to in 7 years doing $1 million income. Think about that. Like in 7 years, my life was dramatically changed in working for corporate because critical mass took over. It's like microwave popcorn, right? You guys, microwaves, you shouldn't be using them. Right? But we all have done it. You put the the popcorn in the microwave, right? And it's just nothing's happening. The bag is completely flat. And then you hear like one pop and then another pop. And then all of a sudden it's right. And you're like, oh crap, I don't want to burn my popcorn. Right. So, and it just takes over. Critical mass takes over. Now, why do you think I'm sharing that with you?
Because the same thing will happen as we continue to follow the food choices and monitor our macros and track and exercise.
Exactly. And critical mass does take over, right? So it takes 90 days for a physiological response to happen, good or bad. Whatever you do consistently. I know you've heard this before, but I'm going to remind you, because we have the little demons in our brain that wants to take over. And, because we're so used to quick gain, a quick change, a quick result. And if we don't, we get discouraged, we quit, we jump to something else, and we quit before we reap the benefits. So it's going to be 90 days of a physiological change. And the critical mass is that right now things feel like an effort. And sometimes that's good because you're like, I'm doing something, right? Jamie, you talked about, I really didn't want to work out. Well, there's always going to be those days, right? Because I've been doing this for 30 years. And the other day I was talking to myself. I'm like, well, I got a little tweak in my shoulder. Do I want to work out? Do I want to stretch? I'm like, no, I'm going to go work out and I'll stretch, right? Because I was like I'm like, am I trying to give myself an out, or am I really trying to protect my shoulder, right? Which one was it? I was trying to give myself an out. So that's always going to happen. But the critical mass is that when you're doing things consistently, where your body starts responding, but also where your brain starts to shift. Because when we what do they say? Neurons fire together, rewired together. Is that what it is? Yeah. Neurons that fire together, rewired together. And that's what you're doing, is you're creating new patterns, right? You're creating new habits within your life. And the critical mass will also take over because things will get easier for you, because it's who you become, right? It's like, it's your life, new pathways, right? So Alicia put in there, like new pathways are created. And one of the things, Teresa, because I wrote something else down, you said continue. I want you to write in the chat continue, because I wrote this down yesterday. So funny you said that word. John 8:31. I want you to also write that down. If you continue in my word, then you are my disciples indeed. He didn't say if you're perfect. Didn't say if you do this thing. If you say the right thing. If you continue in my word. Right? So the Bible has so much business in it. Right? It has so much health in it. So thinking about continue is your word, continuing on over the next 60 days, because you've made it 30 days, regardless of when you started eating on cleanse and all of that, you started 30 days ago. As of Tuesday, it'll be 30 days that you've been showing up. So I'm going to say it again. Give yourself a high five. Are you guys proud of yourself? You should be. You should be. Because I'm like, and I want to hammer this point home. I just want to think about it. We're going into February. What happens in January, right? Everybody does the New Year's resolutions. The gyms are packed. January 14th, 15th, and 16th, they get a little bit more sparse. By the end of February, the majority of all gym sales for the year are within the year of, the month of January. You realize that? Majority. But by February, everybody teeters out. They fail to continue. They fail to stay in the game before they reap the results. So you've made it 30 days. Now we're going to go another 30 days. Then we're going to go another 30 days. And at that mark, we're going to do a measure, monitor, and adjust. I see it for everything. So, I really want you to say how committed, for you to see how committed you are. Because not even just the gym. We have Hormone Reset 101 that's completely free. And that's a program within itself. We should charge for it. But what we found is, you'll see, like we look at all the data, right? So I'm like, what's the open rate on email 1? What's the open rate on email 14? It goes from like 80% open rate to less than 6% on email 14. So just in 14 days, they've quit. You haven't quit. Say the truth. And I wrote this down as well. This is a great quote, and I'll put it in the group. Most of us have 2 lives: the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stand resistance. It's Stephen Pressfield. So let me say this again. Most of us have 2 lives: the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. How do you think that plays a role for you? What do you think that means? Why do you think I shared that with you?
I feel like I understand the first 2, and then the third line, I'm like, I'm not sure what that means.
Okay. So I want to rewind for a second, because Alicia put the passage. If you continue in my word, then if you continue in my word, then you are my disciples indeed. And that's John 8:31. So between the two stand resistance. What stands between what you want? Go ahead, Jamie.
I was going to say the devil.
Right?
He comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
100%. 100%. And how does he do that? He does that.
Taunts.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Distractions. He's the master of lies and deception, and he will put words in your brain and tell you can't do it, and put things in your path. But you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. So if you are in Christ's word and you are walking and abiding with him, you've got protection, and you can go to him, and he will give you peace, and he will give you all the things. So
he is scared to death of us finding out who we are identity-wise and what we're supposed to do. So as women,
yeah,
I have to get this body and his temple in shape. I have to fulfill that. That's part of what's helped this year be a different mindset than last year. Because Lydia, when you said that verse, I thought, the renewing of the mind is washing in the word, right? It's reading it. So that can apply not just to the Bible, but reading over what you're giving us. I'm changing what I had fed it before or allowed to stay there, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's, you guys will love this. You can't make this stuff up. When I go to a Messianic church, so that's a long story. But my rabbi, he's very into changing, the pathways too. And he did that corporately as a food broker decades ago. So we do grow to grow by every January, and it's a workbook, and it takes us 3 months. Last night, because we go to church on Friday nights, I almost went, Lydia, like, I'm telling you, it's like he is saying the exact same thing as this. You cannot make up the parallel. And I'm like, I am right where I'm supposed to be. It's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny that you say that. Excuse me. And a couple different things, like Jamie's like steal, kill, and destroy. And he does it in our thoughts. He does it in putting doubt. And he does it through isolation. Because he knows if he can separate us, he can destroy us. That's why it's so important. That's why I say you showed up today and you've been showing up on a regular basis. That's why I always talk about plugging into the community, right? Staying plugged into your energy source. One of the things, and I'll share this with you, back when my mom passed away, and this is tough because it was very traumatic, and I'm not going to get into the details, but it was a Tuesday night. It was a Tuesday, and I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. I was like, I literally thought I was going to die. Like my brain was so dark, and I have tears because it's one, remembering that I had that much darkness. But the reason I tell you that, because I was like, I remember being in the gym and I was just like, I couldn't even do anything, right? I'm just like, I was so lost. And I was like, I got to go to church. And they had a service that night. And there was nothing in the service that gave me the aha. There wasn't. And then, the pastors knew what I was dealing with and they talked to me. And I was in tears, but I got into my car and the song from Lauren Daigle, Hold On To Me, came on. It was the first time that I heard it. And I just cried. But then everything was released. You know what I mean? But it was like, I had to go to church to be around a community. It was the last thing that I wanted to do because I hate crying because I'm an ugly crier. Right. And and not, not only that, it's like, because I'm so sensitive, my eyes swell, my face gets puffy, it's like, it's an ugly sight. So that's why I don't want to be around anybody. That's why I never want to cry. So, I went there and I'm telling you that because I did the thing I didn't want to do, but I showed up. So you might not want to be here today, or like, you should have been here. You should be here. You're showing up, and it's so important. So that isolation is not allowing yourself to be isolated and get into that dark movement, getting into that spiral. Another thing, Dana, as you said, the pathways and how we speak is so important. I didn't plan on talking about this right now, but how we speak, the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. How many times have you heard or have you said, the devil's really fighting me on this one? The devil's really, I must be, he comes against you at the most when you're on the right path, right? Like you're constantly bringing his name up. How many have you heard it or you do it? Because every time we speak about what he's doing, we give him permission. One of the things I want you to understand, like even his demons, his disciples, right? His whatever you want to call them. Do you realize that they can't attack us unless we give them permission? We have to open up the door. And how do we do that? We do that in the way that we speak. We do that in sharing that fear. And it doesn't mean that that it's not there. It doesn't exist, but we literally open up the door by how we expose ourselves to different things. Like,
Lydia,
go
I
ahead.
had a dream years ago, because I'm very visual, and it was a football field, and I was walking down to come on it, and demons were in one side of the bleachers and angels were in the other, and they both leaned down and said, "I wonder which one of us will get a sign today by what she speaks." And I'm very trained in the power of the spoken word, right? And from then on, I just thought, I'm not giving you a job. You're going to sit on that bleacher all day long. I'm not getting an agreement and being your partner anymore. And it isn't that little stuff of maybe it's again. This is so. I have friends that we say it appears because we don't decree anything. We might let each other know something, but like it appears this wants to talk, but we don't let it talk, right?
100%.
We
So you're like,
speak it. Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
I'm just
Yeah, go
gonna
ahead.
say we speak what's going on to our life into existence.
Right. Yeah, you're right. We decree it. We decree and declare. We prophesy. So,
Mhm.
so if we're constantly and this is it's a fine line, right? Because you're not being in denial. We're not talking about being in denial, but also not feeding the situation, because where the mind goes, the man will follow. Perfect example. And I talk about, we talk about this in the master class, when where our focus goes, we go. So what we're going to focus on is going to determine our actions. When you're driving, simple rule, right? Where do you take the car where you don't want it to go? Do you look like you hit glass, or you hit ice, you hit snow, you hit a rainy patch, a watery patch in your car, it starts to swerve. What do they tell you to do?
Look where you want to go.
Not where you're afraid to go. But every day we're feeding the things to the place where we don't want to go, where we don't want to be. Doesn't mean that all of a sudden when we start speaking positive, that everything's going to be easy. I heard that, years ago, our pastor said to me, he goes, God didn't say that there weren't going to be weapons formed against you. He said, no weapon will prosper. Now, I'm not trying to make this a church moment. Go ahead, somebody. I thought I heard a voice. They will not prosper. Exactly. So what we speak and thinking about the intention and attention we give our lives. I talked about it in the masterclass, right? One of the things we've been programmed. We believe what we witness, and we will repeat what we have lived if we allow it. I want you to think about that. We believe what we witness, and we will repeat what we lived. How do you think that applies to you? You could have grown up in, maybe it was how you grew up. Maybe you felt like you were constantly in an environment where you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you'll never amount to anything. You're a nuisance, you're in the way, you're this, you're that. Right? One of the things we tell a kid long enough they're stupid, they're going to believe what? And not realizing that we've carried these labels that have created lids in our lives. But also, it's not just what someone else in another environment has done to us. We've taken that on and we've created it ourselves. How many said, I've started and stopped so many times. I've spent so much money on different programs. I can't seem to get past 4 weeks. I can't seem to get tracking down. I can't seem to get my protein down. And you're like, well, constantly speaking okay, yeah, that's something. But you're constantly speaking the struggle. And if we always identify the struggle, then we're always going to have the struggle. But it goes deeper in that. of the perfection mode or the self-sabotaging mode? Like, where have these things come from? We believe what we witness, and we will repeat what we lived. Like, this is pretty harsh, but have you ever seen stories like, you get on Dateline?
Can I
And
say something about that?
go ahead.
We repeat what we live because we're trying to correct the past. That's what we're doing psychologically. We will go into the same cycle as we did with children, as adults, trying to correct the trauma, or it doesn't even have to be traumatic, but the things in the past that were broken. And we don't realize that we're doing that. And it relates back to the neural pathways that were created when we were a child. And then to be able to do that, you have to do the self-talk. You have to do the intentions to create the new neural pathways to be able to not repeat what we lived as children.
Yeah, 100%. You know better than there. You got two masters doing this stuff, right? And the reason that I do this session, and I haven't done this type of stuff in a while, but because we've seen too many times over and over again, like I've said before, we can create the perfect plan, the perfect workout, the perfect supplement regimen, the perfect fasting regimen, connect you with, getting your blood work done in labs. But if you don't follow through for yourself, then it's not going to work. And the reason that we don't follow through, because the most important component is what's going on in our mind and rewiring those thought patterns. And it takes time. Because one of the things I shared with you on the bonus session, I was like, because I always relate back to when I was working when I was doing network marketing, because I learned so much from that era of my life. And the reason I became successful, I was in the top 5% in the industry because I got obsessive. I got obsessed with being better. So everything was about filling my brain. Like, if it did not serve where I wanted to go, it did not fit into my life. Period. And I'm still like that now. Like, so anytime I want something done, like, and I shared with you before, back in 2020, when all the stuff was going on and we're watching the news, I said, no, I'm done. I'm like, it doesn't serve me. It's not doing anything for me. I don't give a crap what's happening. I'm sure I'll see it on social media, right? I was like, because I'm like, I'm not going to watch things that don't serve me. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like I love me some binging on Netflix. Okay. The Night Watcher and all those things. I'm like, I'll binge them, but it's like I won't watch reality shows. I won't watch Drama Llama. And the things that I listen to is always going to be feeding my brain and making me better in something that I want to do for myself. It either involves you guys and me learning something to be better for you, or it involves me improving myself to be better at business. Right? So thinking about that, of getting obsessive. So I went on a little, rabbit trail there, but bringing us back to the rewiring, that's where I want to do some exercises with you this morning. Be rewiring yourself on a consistent basis, understanding that, if you have a glass of Coca-Cola, how do we make it clear? We pour clear liquid in there, but it overflows. And so that's one of the things that I do is like, I drench, right? We drench inflammation by what? Increasing our fat, reducing the amount of inflammatory foods we take in, right? So we're not trying to put a fire out with an eyedropper. Same thing. You're putting out a fire in your mind. And if we do it with an eyedropper, it's going to take time. And just because we might do something today for our brain, we have to consistently be doing it. So I want you to pause here for a second and think, where are you filling your mind? And what are you filling your mind with? So I want to take a minute. I want you to write it down. Where are you filling your mind? And what are you filling your mind with? So in the third question, how is it serving you in your life and where you want to go? Who wants to share?
I try to stay connected to positive groups. I stay away from social media groups that are useless, because they're not helping me to stay positive. So if they're all that drama that goes on, I stay away from those groups.
Okay.
And a lot of books, especially books on wellness, mindset, and improving my knowledge, as well as helping my mind and recovering from all the childhood trauma.
Okay, good. So you feel it's serving you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who else?
We have been trained on ear gates and eye gates, so I'm very careful of what I ingest in both. Just a habit I started about a year ago was every time I'm getting ready and I'm putting on makeup, that phone's on and I'm listening to a teaching because it's time. It's perfect time. I'm a captive audience and it's a good use of my time. So I'm already seeing the difference of it's interesting if I'm around either really negative people because they're not in my life. I don't mean that ugly, but God, it's like an affront. Like, that's not how we talk in my house. None of my friends and none of my accountability. It's violent to me now. You know what I mean? Like, no, I don't have time for that. And that's not pouring in my ear. So it's a practice habit, and the results are, hello, here I am. I'm feeding. One of the things in our goals to grow is, are you investing in yourself? And one of my rabbis, uncles was a multimillionaire, and he said, if you don't invest in yourself, don't ask anybody else to. So this is us investing in ourselves, and so it works. It absolutely works. I really guard my ear and my gates big time.
That's awesome. That's huge. Anybody else? Go ahead, Alicia.
Well, I have to be in the compression pump for 2 hours a day, and I do not like to sit still. It's like torturous to me to have to stay in one place for any amount of time. So during that time in the mornings, I use that time to watch like Joyce Myers or somebody like that, and then I'll take a half an hour to meditate. And in the nighttime, I get in it. It's very exhausting too, because it's an hour of compression. So you get kind of tired, and I kind of meditate my way into sleeping. And it kind of opened my mind because with Sophia being in the hospital and everything, I haven't been as dedicated to that. So that's probably part of what's throwing me off my axis, because that meditation and that time to connect with creator is like so important. And when I get away from that, it's just like that anxiety just comes in. So that's what I try to do, and listening to like binaural beats and different frequencies to kind of adjust some of that tension in the mind. I try to do those things daily.
That's good. So you found and then it's identifying and finding like what's going to work with you for you. It's not about like doing everything. And that's huge, of thinking about what are you filling your mind with? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Because you're here, right? And you've been plugging in, and then you have the accountability sessions, with Charisse and Shondell, but it's, we're not with you 24/7. So it's identifying and keeping your head in the game and feeling, so you constantly feel strong enough to say, no, that's not going to work, right? No is a big thing for women.
for
Right.
me, that's really big is to know is a complete sentence with my family because they're very intrusive.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels uncomfortable because of the roles that we played, you know, as
Mm-hmm.
children. But the no is a complete sentence, I think, is a gift that we have to give ourselves too, because we can't do everything for everybody. Of course, we're
Right.
invested to like our immediate people, but we will be too thin if we
You're
do
right.
that.
You've heard it said. I mean, there's quote and cliche after cliche. You know, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? You got to constantly. And one Sarah Jakes, what she says. She goes, sometimes when you're in a drought, you attract people that are thirsty. So if you know, what's that mean? That means that people that are going to constantly going to pull you down, and you're not in the position to lift them up. But putting yourself first and reminding you, okay, so it's going to take attention and intention. Remember when we were in the master class, I talked about the societal hypnotic mechanism. We've been programmed, we are naturally programmed for negativity. It's a protection on our brain. Our brain, that's how our brain protects us. So we literally have to work for for your brain, for you to be courageous. So, and you know, thinking about, we've been trained to be broke or poor, sick, misinformed, angry, you know, all the things. If you watch the news, it perpetuates stress. Social media will perpetuate stress if you don't get control of it, if you don't create and set those boundaries, and if you don't have the intention and give it attention. And remembering that it's a process, even though I've been repairing my brain for the last 30 years, there's still things that show up. And it gives me opportunity. I don't go into a downward spiral like I used to of bad behaviors. What I do, I'm like, oh, wow. Didn't realize that was still hanging around. Right. So then I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? And today I want you to give yourself permission to let go of that baggage, of the things that have been spoken over you. You know, in the Bible, they talk about the Israelites. Their trip was only supposed to be what, 11 days? And they wandered in the desert for 40 years. 40 years. Why? Because they still saw themselves as being captured and slaves. Even though they were no longer in that abusive situation, they did not let go of it. So I want you to think about something. You might have had things spoken over you. You may have been in a destructive relationship, whatever that looks like. But how long have you been out of it? See, being a victim is not your fault. Choosing to stay a victim is your choice. And sometimes that's a hard thing for people to hear. Exactly. And it's not your responsibility to heal others. And when we've been into a situation and we will repeat what we live. My mom was a codependent. She took care of her alcoholic father, taking him out of the bars when she was 12. And she continued all her life, and she transferred that into my brothers. Being very open with you today. And my mom was the best person, right? I have no complaints about my mom. But I also learned to be a codependent person and not realizing it. And I would put myself in situations when I was younger that created the same type of environment that I grew up with. And when I recognized that, I didn't beat myself up. I was like, "Ah, this is where things are going to get interesting. This is where it's going to change." Yep. Connecting the past. So identifying, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I acting this way? Where does it come from? So we believe what we witness and we will repeat what we lived. So how do we break that? Because we take that over into our health aspect and in taking care of ourselves, feeling we're not worthy enough, or other people are more important, or I'm past helping, or whatever that perfection mode, because perfection mode, procrastination is the assassination of what?
Procrastination is the assassination.
Of your destiny. Eileen, right? My mentor friend Eileen always shares that. The reason that I share that with you, because how many of you have gotten frustrated with tracking? Like, I can't meet my protein. And how many in the past, when you've gotten frustrated, you threw the baby out with the bathwater, you quit, right? So you quit. So let's think about this for a second. How many of you have a mortgage, or you have a car payment, or maybe you have credit cards? Yes, right? And this is not a judgment, right? So that means when you bought your house, or you bought that car, or you charged whatever it was on that credit card, you knew it tells you minimum payment. When you're paying mortgage on your house, you know what goes to principal and what goes to interest. But you know, in the next 30 years, if I just make the minimum payment, that house is going to be paid off. My car, in the next 6 years, if I pay it, even though I'm paying interest, whatever, if I pay this payment on my credit card, yes, I'm being charged 22.5% interest, but in 100 years, I will have that hot dog paid off that I charged, that I ate 10 years ago, right? But you still pay it, right? How many of you look at it and say, you know what? I can't pay for my house. I can't pay it all right now, so I'm just not going to pay it. Do you do that? So then why do we do it with our health and our fitness? I can't do it all right now, so I'm just not going to do it. Can't do it perfectly right now, so then I'm just not going to do it. So I want next time that thought comes into your brain, I want to think, well, I can't pay off my mortgage right now, so I'm just not going to pay it. Doesn't make sense, right? We don't operate that way. So the compounding effect. So one of the things I want to do, I want to take a 15-minute break, because we're going to come back and we're going to do an exercise. Okay. And we're going to go through some questions and work through them, because the goal is not just to give you the ahas. It's like, okay, where do I go from here? What do I need to do once I've discovered something, right? So that's before we go though. Well, actually, you know what? Let's take a 15-minute break. I want you to think about some things, get some more coffee, whatever it is, and then we will talk about ahas when we come back. Sound good?
Lydia, we can't have coffee.
Oh, you have one more day. That's right. Go get your tea. Go get some lemon water and apple cider vinegar.
Yum.
I'll see you guys at 11:30.
Got it.
Okie dokie. What are some ahas that you want to share?
I felt like you were reading my memoir.
by your spirit animal. So what's standing out for you the most right now?
Well, I think it's like you and Ryan and I talked before this even started that kind of just everything you're saying. Like number one, I'm not taking care of myself. I wasn't putting myself first. I'm wasn't doing any of the things to head me in the direction I wanted to go because I'm just too busy taking care of everybody else. So I think that's been I've had to set some boundaries on, like even this morning, I'm like, well, no, I'm tied up for, from 8 to noon. So, and I've been getting all these texts from my cousin. I take care of my uncle here. And he lives in Portland and wants to drive my life because of the things his dad needs, but he doesn't want to take him there. So I've had to put up some real boundaries, and that's been a real struggle for me, but I'm doing it.
You're doing it, and are they surviving?
I know they are. The funny thing is he's in an assisted living, so really, his cares are being met. I mean, outside of, things that taking him to appointments and some of those things, but like you said, and we're going to be gone for a week. So what's going to happen? Is he not going to be here when I get back, or is everything going to be fine?
Right.
So yeah, that's been a huge aha for me.
Can you feed the dog?
That's awesome.
Guys can feed you.
Hold on me. Who else? That's good though. I'm glad you're here, and like we said, you're exercising that muscle, right? So the more we do, the less we do, the less we do. And just like anything, I can give you a ton of analogies. Perfect example, cold plunging. Cold plunging is really good for you, right? And Ryan invested in a cold plunge. Back in November, we're in New York and it was too cold for my bones, right? So I'm out of, and a couple other things. So I'm out of practice of the cold plunge.
That happened to me too.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm like, I know I need to get in there, but I don't want to get in there. Right. And it's just like with anything, but when I was doing it consistently, not that it's still hard, right? Because it's cold. But I did it consistently. Same. So everything like that you're doing, you just want to keep exercising that muscle of saying no and putting in, and I hate saying putting yourself first, but making yourself a priority. That's what I'm like, making yourself a priority so you can be better and serve in the places that you need to serve. So good for you, Tracy. Who else? Ahas, thoughts on the morning so far?
I just want to add to that. And there's a prayer, the prayer of Jabez in the Bible, and he asks God to bless him first. And then he goes on to pray for others. And, you exalt God first, thank him, ask for forgiveness, and then ask him to bless you. Like, ask him to bless your path, ask him to bless your mouth, ask him to bless, cover your brain. I mean, so that's something I learned a couple of years ago in a Bible study. It was just based off of the prayer of Jabez, and there's a whole study on the prayer of Jabez. But it's, it's exalting the Lord and, asking for forgiveness for things, because you do have to repent of things. We're all sinful. We can't help it. We're not good.
We all suck at times, right?
We do. Not one of us is righteous. No, not one.
Right.
God even calls us wretched sometimes. Anyway, but it's definitely doing that. And I think my thing this morning was listening to our talks. It is a spiritual warfare on us, and whether we want to believe that or not, it is scriptural, and it is a real thing. And speaking, you can allow things into your life and maybe not even realize it. And so I think definitely bridling the tongue and bridling, those thoughts and commanding them to be gone. I mean, I mean, Jesus has power over that, so I think my thing was, I walked a different life for a long time until I found the Lord. And then life's been so different. It's just been so different. So even with this program, I was praying. I'm like, okay, I tried to deal with it. And then I just brought it to the Lord, and he's a provider, and he provided this. I know he did. He 100% provided this. And I'm feeling the results, and I'm like, because he provides. Like, he does. And if you're having a hard day, he will provide. He sustains us. He nourishes us. He's for us. He is for us. And so it's just getting understanding that spiritual battle that's really happening, which is a real thing. And knowing whose team to be on for the day, whose team are you on, and who's twisting your back and trying to march you forward in a different direction, and being mindful of that. And then having those spiritual weapons, which is, my cat's on it because my cat can't leave me alone today. This thing, anyway, she warms up on it, I guess. Anyway, but the cat is the devil, by the way. This cat. Like, she lays on top of my Bible and won't let me get at it. Anyway,
not today, Satan.
It's my son's cat. I didn't want the cat, but she loves me so much. Anyway.
Isn't that funny? Because I'm not a fan of cats.
I know.
It's like, and every time I'm around them, I'm like, they want to rub up. I'm like, why? Get away.
Because they have radar on the person that's like, all right, 2 pets is good, kitty. Like, not clinging and sitting on my neck all day long. Right?
That's too funny.
Anyway, but those were my ahas, was just our conversation this morning. It's you can see it walking out in all of our lives, and it's something to really take seriously and really be mindful of. It really is. I mean, it's a real thing. So it makes it easier for you when you step into God's design for you. It makes sense suddenly, so.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's like a relief that comes, not that there won't be challenges, right?
No, absolutely not.
But then there's a peace that comes that you're doing the right steps,
right?
doing the right things.
Yeah. When there's a sovereignty there's peace. And when there's going to be trouble. We're all going to have trouble. We are. But there's one person that overcame it already a long time ago, and you have victory in that. So we start walking alongside arm in arm in that, with the Lord. It's like, wow, what a difference. It's not on you anymore.
Yeah, that's and I want to hear from the rest of you too, but like Eileen, I talk about her a lot because she's actually younger than me, and she's a mentor of ours, but also became a very good friend. But she was doing one of our masterminds, and she's just like, she goes, you just gotta, she goes, we put too much weight in prayer. And she goes, what do I mean by that? Like, we have to pray perfectly. And she says, she goes, because she was a pastor, she goes, all you have to do is ask for what he can provide. God, I need the discipline that only you can provide. God, I need the strength only you can provide. I need the whatever it is that only you can provide, because as humans, we're always trying to do everything ourselves instead of saying, just give me what I know only you can provide. And she goes, and that's my prayer each and every day.
And there's power in rest. My sister and I were talking about this. Lydia, you know what my sister's gone through in the last couple months, and she had a miracle healing. But she feels like she has to do things. She has to do things through stuff. And her doctor told her to rest, and she's having a hard time with that. And I said, there's so much power in rest, because when you rest, you allow God to do it. You allow him to show up and do it when you say it's yours. And that's what we had her do with my sister. Had a stage 3 cancerous brain tumor just removed, and like whole side of her hemisphere of her brain. And in a month and a half, her brain's totally healed. She was going in to do 33 straight days of radiation and chemo. And we prayed the night before because she didn't want to do it. And we just prayed. I'm like, we're giving this to him. Like, this is his.
Mhm.
Like, this is 100% his. And the next day she woke up and she felt an overwhelming need to get an MRI. And she went to her cancer team. She lives in Chandler, Arizona. And the team was like, well, we got, okay. I mean, they appeased her. And her brain is completely healed. There is nothing, her grooves are even back in a month and a half. They've never seen it before. Never in their life. I mean, they just are like, this is unbelievable. And I'm like, won't he do it? And then I said, because that night I said, rest. He's got it, whatever it is, even if it didn't turn out that way, rest. Let him do it. Let him show up. Let him do it. And there you go. So she's
I got
walking away
chills.
with this. Yeah, still walking away going, what? Anyway, but amazing things. And not that it could have turned out that way, but even if it didn't, rest. There's power in resting. There's peace in resting, because
Mhm.
there is a God of the universe that is got it. And
Mhm.
not one thing is out of order. I mean, even rough things, there's purpose in it,
Mhm.
So that's where the peace is knowing the attributes and knowing that. So yeah.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you, Jamie. And your sister, man. And Dana says, only God, right? It's just crazy. He's crazy like that, right? And it's one of the things you got to always remember. I got this from my mom. She goes, God will always be your number one fan. He'll have that foam finger, going, go, go, go. She told me that when I was a kid. And I still always visualize that. He is your number one fan. He wants you to succeed, right? Because you're investing in the kingdom by investing in yourself. So, anyone else want to share something, ahas, thoughts for the morning, and we're going to move forward?
Well, for me, it wasn't really an aha. It was more that the morning session was energizing and reinforcing my mindset.
There you go.
Awesome. So we got to hold on one second. There we go. Anyone else?
Lydia, it just keeps getting reinforced to me the whole 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, a year. Because I'm a project manager, there, timelines and lists and all that makes sense to me, my personality anyway. But this year, the difference is I want to see what that looks like. I'm telling you guys, when Ryan said on that Saturday of you won't recognize yourself in a year, I didn't take it just physically at all. I went, I'm freaking gonna find out. So
Yeah.
there's already a rewiring with that, because I used to be the one that was like, that perfectionism can be debilitating too, right? Because it's all or nothing. And my personality wants to tend to go that way anyway. But I'm like, yeah, no, that's not what this is about. And I didn't give myself the chance last year, and a lot of factors, right? But the part that I'll own is, no, I'm going to find out. So it just keeps getting reinforced. And I'm like, well, it's exciting. It's very, it is energizing, Teresa. That's a great word. Yeah.
That's cool. You didn't miss your mark, right? It's like, I think sometimes, I wrote it down the other day. It's like, I'm not, my life is not half over. It's just getting started. And it's funny because, I had, and Rye wrote it in there, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right? And I always had plans. Like once I got the business mindset, I was like, okay, I'm going to work this hard for this many years, right? In network marketing. And then I'm going to invest in this. And then I'm going to retire at 45. Well, I found myself where my whole life was thrown upside down at 44. And it changed everything for us, right? So I didn't retire, went through a major lawsuit and everything. And so over the past decade, sometimes I'm like, in my brain, I'll be like, oh, man, did I miss my mark? Did I screw up, right? And then I don't care how you voted. One of the things that inspired me is that you have a 76-year-old man that is just getting started and is the ruler of the free world. It's like, I'm only 54. I think I'm good. Right? I mean, that's really how I started to look at it. Cause I was just like, every once in a while you got things that will come into your brain. And I'm like, wow, no, if you could do that at 76, why can't I have a new purpose at 54 or 55 or whatever, right? And it's the same for you guys, but it's taking care of so. And Caleb took his mountain at age 80. Think about that. I mean, there's so many stories, so we could keep going. But one of the things I want to go through is, before I go, anybody else want to say anything? Okay. Remember, shoulders back. Shoulders back. We want to sit up. So we talked about the societal hypnotic mechanism, where we naturally go into the negative. So it takes intention and attention, or attention, intention, to really instruct our brain to do the things that we want it to do, right? Because your brain automatically, even though your brain knows that eating better, right? Exercising, being in the right environment, listening to the right things is a good thing and is exciting, we'll always go back to the devil we know, right? Because it's easy. I remember years ago building my organization, somebody said, we put quarterly challenges together. And he said, Lydia, the challenge is really hard. And I'm like, well, it's called a challenge, not an easy. Right? And it's the same thing kind of like with your brain. It's going to want to go back to the devil we know, because because it can be easy. I remember years ago, heard the story. There was an old man on the porch sitting in his rocking chair, and he had this golden lab that would sit on the porch with him. And every day this guy's walking by and he would hear the lab like, and ruffling around. Finally, the guy stops. He's like, dude, what's going on with your dog? He says he's just whining and everything. He goes, he's laying on a nail. He goes, well, why doesn't he get up and move? He goes, I guess it doesn't hurt bad enough. So we go back to the devil we know, even though it's painful, it may not be painful enough. But now we've gotten to the point that programming that we have, what we believe will develop. Okay, this is your math equation. You've heard me say this before. Our belief plus focus plus action is going to equal our results. What we believe is going to determine what we focus on. What we focus on will generate the action, and the consistency of action will determine our results. So what is it that we need to believe in order to have the right focus to take action to get the results? I'm going to say this again. Write the math equation down. Belief plus focus plus action equal results. Write down, what do I need to believe in order to have the right focus to take the right action? So I call this labels and lids because we have a tendency to take on the baggage of life, and that baggage is things that have been spoken over us. And then we repeat it. No, I'll never be good enough. I'll never be smart enough. I'll never amount to anything. What are some things, say them right now, that have been spoken over you that you carry around? It's not a rhetorical question. Ooh, you know what, Alicia, my dad used to say? You're too lazy to quit. I get it. What else? Sorry, not smart. Okay. Not smart enough. You didn't go to school for that. So you don't know what you're talking about. I don't know if it was spoken over me, but definitely self-confidence. Who do you think you are? Okay. So you've been carrying those around. How does it, what are some beliefs about your body and your environment that are keeping you stuck? Okay. When the doctor told me I would have lymphedema forever, it felt like one more thing I won't overcome. Okay. Who else? My knees have a hard time with exercise, so I tend to be extra careful, probably too careful to the point of not doing anything. Okay. Tracy says, don't like where my body is environment, guilt of doing for me when others think I should be there. Okay. I should have done this years ago. You will never be skinny. Get used to it. Use back issues as excuses. Okay. All right. So now we have all these things that are being spoken over us, or we're allowing them to speak over us. Number one, when we have these beliefs that we're carrying, we have to ask, where are they coming from? Just because, and you heard me talk about this before, I'm gonna tell you, just because it's truth, right, doesn't mean that it's true. What's the difference? Truth can be that it's a fact. True means it's not going to change. The sun sets from what to what? Tell me.
East to west.
East to west. Will that ever change? No. Okay. I have knee issues. I have back issues. Is that the truth? So it's a fact, but can there be improvements on it? We know right now, I mean, I don't care what your situation is. Jamie's sister, holy moly. She said, won't he do it? Why can't, if he did it for her, why can't he do it for you? Right. And now with the developments of science, right, we know always things can advance and change. So think about that. But other things that we tend to allow ownership of. Like, who are you giving the keys to your car? Because that's what you're doing. When someone tells you that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you don't amount to anything, you'll never be skinny. You don't know what you're talking about. So why are you doing that? Why are you accepting their input? I mean, it's not rhetorical. Why are you accepting someone's input over your life? Do they pay your bills? Or, I mean, are they going to be the final word? In the sense of what you did with your life? Think about that. You're going to allow them have the final word on what you do and the purpose that you're supposed to serve. So who are they? And then you have to answer the question, why are you allowing it? I want you to take a few minutes and think about that. What has been spoken over you? Who are they? And then why are you allowing it? And this is, when I say, why are you allowing it? Understand, this is not a judgment. It's a real question of why are you allowing it? Because until you identify why you're allowing it, you're going to continue to allow it to happen. You're allowing it to happen because you need approval, because of your insecurity, because you feel that's the way that they show in their love. You want to prove something, so if they're not approving of you, you don't feel like worthy? Is this making sense to you? So I want you to take a couple minutes and write this stuff out. What are the labels or beliefs that you're carrying around? Where did it come from? Why are you allowing it? And the last question is, what's the opposite of that belief? Who wants to repeat the questions? Alicia?
And then I might have left something out, but we're gonna write down for the beliefs, where did it come from, and what's the opposite of the belief, is what I heard.
Right. No, okay. So what beliefs have you been carrying around?
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
Why?
Why are you allowing it? And then what's the opposite of that belief? Like if we're sick all the time, what's the opposite of sick?
Healthy.
Okay. And that's where, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I'm going to put some music on. And I want you to take time to go through those questions. Talk.
Are we just gonna go through our questions?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing? Okay.
Let's go through them.
So one of the beliefs I think are getting in the way is that I can't stay consistent and put my needs first. And I would say that it comes from my mother, because she always said I wasn't good at anything. She'd even try to like do my school papers so I would get the grades that she needed. She's very narcissistic, and for the past 5 years we haven't spoken. But my dad died when I was 15, and his birthday's tomorrow, and my mom got cancer recently. I'm sorry, I keep crying today.
It's okay.
My mom got cancer recently, and being the oldest daughter, because none of the three of her children have a relationship with her anymore. She's basically like abandoned everyone out of her life. And me, out of obligation, I've worked in the field of cancer and palliative care and mental health, and she's very mentally unstable. And so we kind of tried to repair that relationship recently, but because she's narcissistic, when Sophia went into the hospital, she was upset that she wasn't the center of attention. So I was trying not to allow her to overstep boundaries. We would lock the front door so she couldn't get in. Somebody forgot to lock it the other day after I told her she wasn't allowed in the house between 9 and 7. She came in and like disrupted the whole family without getting into the details. And my middle child has autism, and it's hard on him to re-regulate after that. And when I look at it, the real reason I think I did it was out of guilt and obligation, but to help her get healthy. But every time I try to help her get healthy, my whole entire house becomes unhealthy, because no matter how much you do, you can never complete it. And that's where where like I can't complete things, because no matter how much I've ever given, anybody gives to her, we cannot complete making her happy. So that kind of carries over into my belief systems when I try to carry things out. Like, it's never ending. Like, even with the lymphedema, like that extreme all or nothing thinking of, I'm going to have to be on point every day, 100%. And I know nobody can do that realistically in my head. And it's just reprogramming myself, because I had that at one point, but it's like those old neural pathways, no matter if we've created new ones, are so easy to open back up because they were so active for so many years. They're still in there. And if you get triggered, it can take time. And like you said, it's when earlier, I can't remember how you exactly worded it, but it's like when you're dehydrated, people are thirsty. And that's the kind of person she is. Like, she'll wait to your weakest moment. And then I struggle with it because, in the Bible, it says to honor your mother and father, but she's so hard to honor. So I have that conflict too. So, but in reality, I know that I just have to let her live the life that she wants to live, and I have to not be involved with her, and that's kind of really heartbreaking for me.
Well, it's a morning. I get that. And one of the things, I have a friend and she's a psychotherapist, or was, and she's also a Christian. And we're having a conversation one day, and she goes, Lydia, she goes, you don't have to unpack it if you don't want to, and you don't have to forgive. She goes, that's a misconception.
Yeah.
She goes, you want to let it go, but you don't have to forgive. And thinking of things that you've been through, honor thy mother and father doesn't mean staying in abusive relationship, right? Setting those boundaries. So for you, Alicia, because because of your master's, what would you tell your patient right now having this discussion? If your patient shared what you just shared, what tools would you give her?
Knowing there's really no way to set boundaries with her, I would tell them to go no contact.
And then she's going to say, it's hard though, right?
Well, then keep being miserable and being taken advantage of. And let's move on to another topic until you're ready to go no contact, because there's no better way to deal with someone who's narcissistic, and they are constantly going to keep you in a state of stress. And just because you were born to someone, if they're abusive, doesn't mean that you have to honor them, because they're not honoring you. And God knows you're not perfect. And maybe that's something you'll have to deal with later. But as of now, if she's not being respectful, you're going to have to let her go down her own path and be, even if it means her getting arrested, and let her be destructive to the point that she opens her eyes to the way that she's treating others.
Mm-hmm. One of the things Jamie wrote in here, honor is different from respect. We honor that they are our parents, but you do not have to respect her actions. That is earned. That is where the boundary is. That's huge. That's huge. Thank you for sharing. So I want you to say, okay, what are the opposites of the beliefs?
That I can do it and that she's an obstacle that needs to be removed to my success.
Okay. So, and this is for all of you. Yes, she's an obstacle. So there's an action that you need to take, but there's words that you need to use in order to rewire. And our words that we use in rewiring is always the positive of what we want, not what we don't want, right? So I am consistent. I'm full of energy. I am, like it says I'm not lazy. What's the
I
opposite of
say I'm
lazy?
efficient. Like
I'm efficient.
I can
right?
do things quickly, so I get more downtime than other people have. That doesn't mean I'm lazy. Like I'm taking care of myself during that time. It's just I don't have to work in the traditional sense.
Yeah. Definition by who, right? So, it's all, what's the word? Relative, right? Relative.
Mhm.
So you're efficient. So those are the words that we need. And so by me being efficient, me being focused, me being consistent, I am doing what?
Completing tasks,
Completing tasks that are going to help me do what?
reach my goals.
So that's something that needs, and you guys will get this recording because that's something that needs to start to be repeated on a regular basis. Because once we identify, it's not enough to identify the issue. It's like, what are we going to do about it? Man, I can't remember her name. She's a psychotherapist, not a psychotherapist. She's a brain person. And she has the 21-day detox, like brain detox, but she talks about how you have to do things in cycles. And it's really 3 cycles of 21 in order to really start rewiring those pathways. Well, go figure. It's almost like 90 days, right? So getting that physiological response of, it's not enough to just identify where the pain is coming from, but what is it that you're going to do about it? And how are you going to speak over yourself? What is it? So write this down. What is it that I'm thinking? Where did this come from? And then what am I going to do about it? Because one of the things you'll hear a lot lately, right, over the past years, it's like, that triggers me. It triggered me. It triggered me, right? It's all in the media. Everybody's getting triggered. Trump says something and people's hair gets caught on fire, right? It's like they're triggered. Okay, so you're triggered. What are you going to do about it? Instead of being Chicken Little, the house is on fire, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Okay, so what do we do about it? And Bryce says, I'm fairly certain that Tim Ferriss, author of the 4-Hour Work Week, doesn't teach people to be lazy, but rather productive and efficient in a short amount of time so you can enjoy other things in life. Yep, there you go. So who else wants to go? Like, what were your answers? Dana.
Lydia, mine were in declaration, so it answers all 3 of the questions. It's funny what Ryan just put too, because that's in mine. I put, I'm not too old. I can and am doing it now, and I will be successful at it now. I do deserve it. I am not afraid of being more successful at a much higher level. I am the daughter of the Most High God, and nothing is impossible with him. I am disciplined. I am not lazy. I am consistent. It's funny that Ryan put that, because I always used to say at work, I get done more in 4 hours than everybody else gets done in 8. And it's true, because I have friends like, I have no idea how you get stuff done like you do. And like, as I'm telling you, I speak it, and I want to do other things with my time. So
Yeah, that's powerful. Being efficient is the thing, and that's what we're going to learn. That's, that's what discipline is being efficient. So how can we do that? But again, it's identifying the things that we carry around, and why are we carrying them? And why are we choosing to carry them? You're carrying around baggage that you don't need to carry. I'd rather be carrying around, a Birkin or a Louis Vuitton
Exactly.
versus a Glad trash bag full of crap people spoken over me.
For me, and it's stuff I've spoken over myself. I was gracious, blessed to have parents that spoke life over me, especially my dad. I mean, who's, getting ready to celebrate a huge birthday next month or this month. But he would literally wake us up in the morning like crazy early and go, and would whisper, "Get up, that's gonna do it." Like, it trains you to think that, right? So for me, it's been more, and I don't mean to simplify it crazy, but it's really, what were the lies? What are the lies? Where did they come from? And half of them came from, I absolutely believe the enemy, but I embraced them. I didn't repeat them out loud, but I sure internalized them, right? And then saying it out loud, what they were, and saying the opposite. And I think no is a crazy powerful word, because when I have prayer time, I'm like, no, I'm not doing X. And then that thing kind of loses its power, and it is shifting my mind to go, what would I look like? And what would it feel like? And who needs me? And that speaks to me legacy wise, and that drives me a lot too. Not just that I'm a caretaker now. I have a friend that goes, "You can't afford to go down." That's absolutely true. Not pressure, but it's realigning things for me. It's making them focus more. This is what's important. I have to do it, but it's a pleasure, and I'm blessed to be able to do it because I'm not in a wheelchair. I have an alarm that goes off on my phone now that says I get to walk every morning, and I'm like, that's how I'm going to look at it. If I couldn't, I'm sure somebody that couldn't would say, you have no idea what a blessing it is that you can go walking. Right? So I'm kind of changing my own focus and view on stuff.
That's powerful.
Little by little.
Little by little. And I actually have written that in my notes. That's exactly what it is. Who else wants to share their
I will.
answers? Go ahead.
So this is kind of an aha, like you know it, but you don't really realize it until you have to like really think about it. But I look at who they are as my family. Why, kind of like Alicia said, obligation, guilt, letting them down. And I look back, I was kind of listing out like, why do I feel that way? Like there's something that I'm not just this caretaker, but that's who I am, right? But I was looking back at things that have happened, and it's kind of a crazy ride. Like, my husband, Brent, he had life-threatening pancreatitis in 2008. In 2011, he had a brain tumor that was removed. In 2014, my uncle went on life support, who I now take care of and took care of back then. In 2014, Brent had his second brain surgery, which then removed his amygdala and hippocampus. 2017, my mom passed. 2020, my daughter, who was single, had 8-week-old premature twins during COVID. Sorry.
Can't control the family.
The life of dogs.
And the dog.
And then into the day after the twins were born, Brent's mom passed away. And then in 2023, my uncle moved back, and now I'm taking care of him. And I think, wow, okay, well, you really have had a lot, but you've also allowed all those things to kind of take you over. And I guess for me, it's like knowing that I need to be a better me so that I can truly be present versus just like existing. Like I know all these things, like I can do them all, but am I really serving anybody, including myself, well? I mean, and I've seen it in some relationships where, you know, I haven't been present for some of the things, and I have too much to others. And so it's kind of an aha on, okay, well, you validate, but you also allowed.
Mm. So one of the things also because when we have those type of ahas, we have a tendency to say, well, I allowed it to happen. And you did, but at the same time, it's that you've trained them to need you. So now it's not so much that you allowed it to happen, you just trained them. So now you have to retrain them.
Yep.
In order for you to be able to be a better version. I don't want to say the version that you're meant to be, right? To live the optimal health life so you can be of purpose to everyone around you.
Right.
So just everybody, you just have to retrain your environment, because when you make that decision, when you change, the world around you will change. It's energetic. I mean, that's science. It can't, the universe can't help but comply when we make that actual decision of whatever it might be, right? Because that's the brain literally working, because once we make that decision, then your brain says, okay, I've made this decision, so now all I can think about is how to get this done. The focus. You made a decision is the belief that it is possible. That belief develops the focus develops the action. Literally walks in the brain. It's not just a math equation of something fancy to say. It's literally how it will work. What you set your mind upon, where the brain goes, right? The mouth goes, the man will follow. Teresa.
The biggest label that I'm struggling with is being unsuccessful. And it started when I was in school. If I got an 89, it should have been a 90. If I got a 93, it should have been 100. And then I went through college, had the twins, and I had no help raising them. And during that time, I got hit with a health crisis. Well, so all the other things that label me as unsuccessful can all be traced back to me taking care of myself and my health. But to this other person, I'm a failure. I have a college degree, and yet I don't own a house. You know, I lost the house that I had. I don't make the money that my cousins who don't have college degrees are making. I don't travel like they get to travel. But then I have to go back and remind myself, you know, that no, I got hit with a debilitating disease right after my twins were born. And the doctor told me that I would be in a wheelchair in 10 years. I raised my twins by myself as a single mom with no family support. They made it through college with their learning challenges because I saw what they needed. and I advocated for them. So it was like, I have to keep battling that idea that I'm unsuccessful and reminding myself, no, this is what I did. And these are the things I overcame and survived.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that even goes towards my weight, which the doctors never thought I'd lose the weight in the first place. And when I did lose the weight, all of my symptoms were eliminated, basically, because I then had energy and I had functionality. I could go up and down the steps finally.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was like all of these things happened because of challenges. I overcame them, and I need to just let that other person stop being the loudest voice in my brain.
Mm. Wow. With you saying that, how does that make you feel?
It actually makes me feel successful. And the biggest challenge, though, is the action that it takes in order to overcome letting that person being the biggest voice in my brain. But I will have to say that's why I sit in all your sessions. Even though they're not counseling sessions or anything, there's always that uplift and that reminder that I am valuable and I am important and I am worthy.
You are. Oh my gosh, you are. You are, you are, you are. And I want you, everybody, Trizanne says, that's a lie because you have successfully personally helped me. Alicia says, that's inspiring to me as a single mother. And then Jamie says, be proud of your journey. Success is overcoming. I was a single mom of twins too. I know how hard that is, and you did it. Explanation point. Amazing, right? That's why showing up in your environment, but identifying what it is and choosing to move forward, speaking the opposite of what you've been carrying around. You're worthy, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're valued, you're not done. I mean, that's the thing in success. Who's level, right? Of who's market that, but I get it. I get it because that's the way I used to feel growing up. It's like, and nothing was ever good enough. So then when I got critiqued, I would get defensive because I felt like I was always picked on in a sense, you know what I mean? Right? So then when I identified that, I was like, why am I irritated when somebody's just giving me suggestions, right? It's because of the way I identified that. And I'm like, oh, they're just trying to help me. They're not trying to beat me down, right? So using those, but it's really important when we leave here this weekend, right? Because we still have more things we're going to cover. And Jamie, I want to hear from you. But taking these ahas and rewording everything and giving it attention and intention, right? Attention, intention, attention, meaning one of the things that I did when I shifted, right, my whole life from just being a wild child, making money in the bars and whatever, because that's what I did, to, getting my certifications, going back to school, starting in network marketing. The goals part of it and the mindset part of it shifted, right? Tony Robbins was like cassette tape galore for me. But I would always speak every day what I wanted to see and what I wanted to do. So when I crafted out like my goals of things that I knew that were going to get me to where I needed to go, right? Like I knew what I wanted, and this is for you. I knew what I wanted, but then what were the actions that I needed to take on a daily basis? And I had them in my mirror, on my mirror in my bathroom. because it was the first thing I would see every morning and I would read it. And it was the last thing that I would see every night and I would read it out loud of like who I am and what I was going to do. Who I am, what I was going to do. Now, I don't need to put it up there because it's, 30 years later, I just do it, right? This is what we're going to do. This is who I am. Right? So somebody was talking about confidence the other day and I'm like, I don't lack confidence. And but at one time I didn't say that, right? It was like, because they were talking to me, I'm like, I don't need that course. I got plenty of confidence. Because I shifted, right? Little by little. So I really want to make sure that you use your words, that you write things out, right? Of the opposite of what you've been carrying around. And you're trading in your baggage for new luggage, right? Let's put some Louis Vuittons on our shoulders or whatever bag you like. Maybe it's Oakley. I don't know. Jamie.
I was like Dana. I had parents that spoke a lot of grace and life over me. So I didn't have negative words really spoken over me. Fortunately, my mom was a chain breaker because she had a lot of that. And she made sure she came from a lot of abuse and made the choice at 17. She wasn't going to live that way. And we were never raised the way that she was raised. But so we were very fortunate to have a childhood that way. So I didn't have really, in fact, I had the opposite of that. I remember going through some tough things. My dad saying, you're going to make it. You're okay. You know what? That doesn't define you. I mean, those were the things that were spoken over tough. The things that I chose for my life that were very good. But one of my beliefs, I kind of put it in the chat. Mine's more physically. Is I have always exercised my whole life. That was my identity. High school through 20s, 30s, everything. I was diagnosed with Osgood-Schlatter's in my knees at 13, but it never kept me from doing stuff other than I'd fall down a lot. Probably not the best thing to do because I was like, whatever, kept running anyway. But I've been paying for it since I turned 40. Like my knees are really, really, they definitely let me know if it's too much. And so I've allowed that to sink in as my belief that, well, I just can't do it, And I always think of what my dad says, can't do anything, like it goes back to some of that positive self-talk too. But I'm trying to find the thing that'll help. But I know the opposite of that would be if I strengthen my muscles, my knees will actually be protected. So it's pushing past this barrier of doing it and stop being so scared, because I have this thing in my head, I'm going to be crippled if I over push it. And that does come from my mom saying, well, you don't want to be crippled when you're older, anyway, don't go too far. Because my mom's never been she is 73 and does somersaults across the living room. And I'm not even kidding about that. She actually can do somersaults with the great grandkids. But she's never pushed it. She's always just walked. And she is a daily walker. If it's winter, they live in Belfouche, South Dakota. She is on her treadmill every day, watching her cupcake wars, walking on her treadmill.
I love cupcakes.
But she worked in healthcare and she lifted a lot of people. She's been a powerhouse workhorse for her whole life. Where my jobs have been more in front of a computer and that kind of thing. So I have to do the workouts. I'm not lifting people off and on the toilet all day like she was, So I had to kind of rightfully divide that. When I thought about what my mom would say, you don't want to be crippled. It's like, no, I don't. But I also don't want to be, I want to be like you, like physically active, but I don't have my job. My career is more in front of a computer. So I had to look at that scenario in for what it really is, she can speak that way because she's physically active all day long. I'm not. So I do have to do these heavier workouts, Mom, in order to do this. So that's why I did through my 20s, 30s, I did CrossFit and all that stuff. But now I'm 40 going, okay, God, was she right? I'm starting to on my knee, but I know she's not right. I just need to find the balance is what I need to do. The reality is the balance. It's not that I can't do it. It's just, I got to get past this you're going to be crippled thing. I know I'm not going to be. I know pushing past it will get me to the point of like good health and being able to do the things, you know, it's just, yeah. So, but it's fun. It is that twist. It's the twisting into the ears and, you know, where it gets, it gets twisted up.
Yeah.
And then you get caught in that pretzel of like, oh, well, I can't, you know, like,
Yeah.
and it's, I think it's just putting it in front of you going, okay, but what is reality? Like that's perceived, but what's reality? And that like
Right.
the obstacle, how do I get past that? So, so it's, my mindset knows I can do it. I'm one that if somebody says I can't do it, then I have to do it because now I have to prove you wrong and you have to watch me do it. You know, so, I mean, that's partly why I ran and did everything because somebody said, oh, well, you can't run because of whatever.
Mhm.
But I was still like, my knees weren't hurting and I just ran and I did all the things. But now I am hurting going, oh, shoot. Okay. I do have to be more careful. But what does that look like in this new season, you know, versus thinking it's the do all end all be all. I can't, I'll never, it's no, there's something. It's just, what is it that's going to help me?
Right.
So,
Right. And that's one of the things that we won't customize workouts this weekend because there's stuff that still has to be in place for like getting your labs, but even just a supplement protocol to help the joints, to help the muscles, little things like that. And it's in steady action. So reframing your thought process of, yeah, you don't want to be crippled. That's why I am going to work out.
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then knowing it, just like everything that we've been talking about this morning and over the past 30 days, it's consistency that is going to build the strength, right? So you might be light today in your workout, but each time your whole goal of going into the gym is to get a little bit stronger, not go
Right.
from 0 to 150. It's to each time get a little bit stronger, a little bit stronger to where then it's all of a sudden, right? And also think you're rewiring pathways, right? All of us, we're rewiring pathways because you have had pain. That's something our brain says, ow, that hurts, right? So now it's going to make you more hesitant. It's kind of like, think about, Fred Flintstone. Did you guys watch Fred Flintstone? And every time, like, he would stub his toe or whatever, and it was like boom, 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 right?
Yeah.
So I want you to think about that because that's how your brain reacts, right? You stubbed your toe and the nerve. So like your brain is like a mental nerve of still remembering the boom, 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 boom. So it's retraining your brain that you're not going to throb in a sense, right? That's the best way. It's like when your body's been in a certain state for a period of time, it's protecting you because it's afraid it's going to feel that throbbing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep. It
So
totally
you're
makes sense.
rewiring in a couple of different ways.
And
So
I think that's what I'm so grateful for this is that the steps towards that because I mean I love my doctors but there's that it lacks that here's something to try or here's something to do. It's in and out and there you go and it's blanketed where I know there's another way and I'm already feeling the effects of this is already actually my joints already feel better. So again, my belief that gluten and dairy were for people with actual allergic, like anaphylaxis, has been blown completely out of the water. And so I'm already on a trajectory towards that, which I'm really excited about. But it's just, yeah, I love doing this where you dig down and find the root and the deep, because that really has been the don't get crippled, anyway. So I'm like, oh, maybe I just won't do it at all, I'll just,
right.
but then I'm not doing anything, or what, I mean, I walk, but, so yeah, just getting past that.
That's awesome. Now I get it. So how are you guys feeling? Good. I want to thank you for sharing. Thank you for participating. I want you to take a breather. the last question, we're going to take a 5-minute break and then we're going to come back. We're going to do our profiles, right? We're going to do our hormone profiles. We're wrapping up this session. One of the things what Tracy said, and someone and confident and beautiful and inspiring as yourself, Lydia, knowing that you weren't always, oh, thank you, all the things you worked hard to get there. Thank you for being real. Well, thank you. Thank you. Sometimes I'm not sure like what to share, what to, because some things I don't want to share. But sometimes I'm like, is it going to be helpful that I share? So, thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. We're going to come back and do our profiles. But one of the things I want you to write down that I said to you earlier, and this is what your homework is kind of going to be tonight, right? It's just, what is it that I need to believe in order to get the results I want? And I just want you to fester and percolate on that tonight. Okay. So it is 12:41. Let's just take like 5 minutes, 5-minute break, and we're going to be wrapping up the day. We're going to do our profiles and talk about like tomorrow. Are you guys feeling good about the day so far? It's not what you expected?
Good.
I think it's so important to touch on the mental, spiritual, emotional side of this. It's because it really is a whole person approach. I mean,
Yeah.
versus just physical.
You're right. You're right. Because if this is not right, forget about it. All right. So let's take a 5-minute break. I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. Right? Okie dokie. So wouldn't it be cool if we like had a weekend in sunny Florida to where then we had like just a whole like mini retreat of doing these type of things and the exercises we did today?
Yes.
Yeah.
And now, while it's cold here,
It's cold in my house right now. It's really nice outside. So I got to check. I'm like, they replaced our air conditioner and it works. I'm like, oh my gosh. Anyway, okay, so it's been a full-filled day of like just unpacking some things and just wanted to get you guys started on that path of rewiring, right? And understanding that, like we were talking about this morning, it's like Tuesday will be a full 30 days that you've been focusing in on yourself. And a year from now, you won't recognize yourself, right? And the body is so powerful, but the brain is so powerful. And it doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So you can imagine anything and your body's going to react as if. I remember years ago, I was told a story of this man that got on a train, a freight train, and he got locked into an ice box. And he realized he was locked in on this train and in this ice box, and he's like, I'm not going to survive. And so what he started to do, he started to scrape on the inside of the ice box, like how he was feeling. And as the time was going by, starting to get chilly, I can feel my feet getting numb. And he was describing just everything at moment by moment as what he was going through. And when they opened the ice box, the man actually had died. Did he freeze to death? The ice box wasn't even turned on. Literally. Now, I don't know how true that story is, but it was a story that was given to me years ago, and it was very impactful because it's true that our brain does not know the difference between what is real and what's imagined. So it's time for you to start imagining the best things for you and what you're capable of. Moving forward, now we're going to do some customizing. Are you guys ready for that? We're going to talk about some customizing. Tomorrow will be more of the customizing. So let's unpack the Hormone Macro Code, okay? The Hormone Macro Code, the reason that we've coined it or used that phrase, because years ago, I've shared with you before, Ryan and I started with macros. We shifted from low glycemic eating teaching to macros, because your calories will determine your weight loss, but your macros will determine your physique and how fit, strong you are. And then the quality of your macros will determine how healthy you feel and how healthfully you age. One of the things that we have discovered through the years with women, the more mature they are, and as their hormones shift, it's not as simple as a formula, right? The macronutrients and tracking your or doing your macro formulas, it's math. I always say it's math. It's not magic, it's math. But you're not just a math equation, right? And meaning that taking in consideration your muscle to fat ratio, your age, your environment, your stress levels, your hormone levels, your carb intolerance, that plays a big role. One of the things we were able to identify is that mature women of 40 and over, have a higher percentage of having carb intolerance than those that are younger than 40. And if we don't address the carb intolerance, then it's going to be hard for them to just jump into the general equation, macronutrient equation. Does that make sense? So things that play a role in how our body responds is our genetics, in the sense of, they call it epigenetics, because you can have genes that can work for you or can work against you, meaning that you can influence them negatively or positively by the food that you eat, but also they influence how you respond. See, every one of us have a different genetic coding, and just because kale is good doesn't mean that it's going to be good for you, Tracy, right? Or, you know, just because I can't eat gluten doesn't mean that you can't eat gluten, right? It's just the genetic coding on how our body responds. So we have the genetic coding, we have our macronutrient formula and numbers and carb tolerance that we go through, but then we also have our hormones that play a big role on how we're responding. One of the things that we know is that there's 16 different possible hormonal imbalances, including inflammation. But through the years, one of the things that we've been able to identify is that, I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 women, their top 5 is inflammation, excess insulin, excess cortisol, sluggish thyroid, and then the inevitable hormonal decline of testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. So we've started honing in on the top 5, because if we address these, others will fall into place. Now, I've shared this with you before, because if we have we're high in inflammation, we're going to have a high insulin. If we have high insulin, we're going to have high inflammation. They kind of go hand in hand. Remember when we're talking about the hormone weight gain cycle? If you have inflammation, you have gut disruption. You have gut disruption, you have liver dysfunction or gunked up liver. They don't work in isolation. If one exists, the other exists. You can't have a gunked up liver and not have inflammation, because your liver is your filtration station. But through the process, one of the things that we've been doing is that we've been working on reducing inflammation. So going back to the beginning of this morning, Dana asked a really good question of, should you stay on it longer, right? When it comes to the anti-inflammatory, the hormone reset cleanse. And Teresa was exactly right on how she answered it. But how you determine things is, one, you don't ever want to go over 6 weeks, because she's one of the things, low calories, like she said, it's too low of calories. Then it's going to start disrupting, because your body needs, you're doing higher fat, lower carbohydrate. Your body needs that, those carbohydrates. Your thyroid needs the carbohydrates, right? Carbohydrates help direct hormones. Fat and protein produce hormones. Carbohydrates help direct them. And even if you weren't doing the cleanse, when you're in a deficit, your deficit should never really go past 8 weeks, because your body needs a surge. It needs a metabolic surge of calories to help reset your hormones. Okay. Now, how do you decide if you should continue on the cleanse? Go back and look at your best body assessment. That's going to be a key indicator. How are you feeling? Do you still have dark circles under your eyes? Are you dealing with digestive distress? Are you still having skin issues? How are your sleep? Are you feeling bloated after eating specific foods? All of these are questions. But one of the things that we have you doing on our last session is that we did your carb tolerance. And everybody showed up with a 4, right? Meaning they're very high. You have no carb tolerance. You're very carb intolerant. So with that, we developed, we identified what your macros will be for the next 4 weeks once you stop, or once you start on the reintroduction. Okay. So that's not going to change. But from here, what we're going to do is now we got to look at your hormones, because now we're looking at your fasting. We're going to look at your exercise. We're going to look at supplement regimen, those type of things. That's what we want to do. And that's part of the Hormone Macro Code. Yeah, because she talked about metabolic adaptation. I just wanted to make sure that was, so asking yourself, how have things improved, right? So if things have improved, then you're simply going to move on, start doing the reintroduction, and follow your type 4 macro numbers. Okay, so Alicia, I know you weren't on with us last Saturday, but we have the recording, and it's real simple as far as you putting in the input into the form. And we can go over that after you watch that session, and then we can help you with your numbers, because it's real simple. Okay. So if they've improved, you move forward and do your type 4 carb intolerance macros, right? If they haven't improved, then it's up to you if you want to follow the cleanse another 4 weeks and not do reintroduction yet, or if you want to move forward. You actually get to make that decision based on how you feel and by going through your best body assessment and your original answers. One quick way to decide is the hormone profile diagnostic. How many of you have done that? That's fine. I figured y'all would have did it. If you didn't, don't worry about it. So just the inflammation questions, answer that. So if you did that, when did you do them? Like Tracy, you said you did them. What date did you do those?
In the very beginning.
In the very
when you first
beginning.
started.
Perfect. So today, all you had to really decide if you want to do another 4 weeks of the cleanse, which you're not because you're going to Hawaii. Here's my crocodile tear for you.
I'll get all the goods for your trip.
You just do the inflammation question part of it. And if it tells you where your numbers are as far as inflammation, if it's really high, then you get to make that decision because your whole role of the anti-inflammatory cleanse, the hormone reset cleanse, is to reduce inflammation, start healing your gut, and start improving liver function, right? Does that make sense? Let me know you guys are tracking me, right? Okay. So let's talk about, did you guys print out the hormone profile diagnostic, or do you have the actual Excel sheet up?
Both.
I use the Excel sheet.
Excuse the Excel sheet. Okay. So let me write this out. And we're going to go over this more tomorrow because I don't want your guys' heads to pop off today. We did a lot of mind work, right? Thinking. So here what we have. We have our top 5. Which is inflammation, insulin, cortisol, thyroid, and then our sex hormones. Or let's say declining. I'll just do an arrow down, okay? Who, out of those that have done their diagnostic, who wants to share their top 5? Go ahead, Teresa.
Okay. Hold on, let me pull it back up. My top 5. Low dopamine, 7, 8. Wow, it's funny. Before I could pick them out easily, now I actually have to look and see that it's only 1 over.
Nice.
So 2 over is low dopamine. And excess cortisol.
Okay.
Low DHA. There's 3. And low GH.
Okay.
That's 4. The rest of them, which are just the progesterone is only over by 1. Low testosterone is only over by 1. And thyroid is only over by 1.
Okay, which that's actually pretty good. So cortisol is your top issue.
Yes.
And that's what we want to address as far as your protocol. And I know I've shared this before, but it's repeating it so you understand. Inflammation, insulin, and cortisol don't work in isolation, just like, your gut and liver don't work in isolation from inflammation being present. Insulin is an inflammatory hormone. It actually helps control cortisol and insulin. Cortisol and insulin can help control inflammation, but when we have too much of it, causes inflammation. We don't get this addressed, then it puts a strain on our thyroid. Our sex hormones, unfortunately, hormonal decline, right? So what we want our body to be in the best state in order to respond, giving it the foods to help support what little production we get as we start to mature, right? So cortisol is going to be your top one that you focus on. And that's what we'll go over. I'm going to go over protocols or recipes tomorrow, right? On each one, because these are the top 5 that we focus on. And like, how do you decide? right? But
Well-
yours is easy.
Well, yeah, it's easy now. In the beginning of my journey, my cortisol was 14
Yeah,
and my insulin was 15.
yeah.
So just looking at these numbers, and it explains why I feel so much better, but it has been a journey of repair.
Yeah. It's been a journey, but now you're going to get that extra edge. Some of the things, see, the reason the hormones part of it is so important, and because it's not just going to be all based on supplementation. It's putting all the pieces, puzzle pieces together, right? In order for them to, or it's the, what is it? It's the spoke. No, never mind. Forget that analogy. Right, but it's putting all the puzzle pieces together to fit to create the whole picture, to create all the scenery. With our hormone health hierarchy, we start with our food, and that's where you've started. So now it's really honing in, right? Then we did carb tolerance, intolerance, and we're going to be honing in on that carb tolerance. But what's within that is our hormones, because one of the things I've shared with you before, you cannot eat your way, you cannot eat enough flaxseed to produce optimal levels of testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. You can support production, but it won't ever get you to optimal, right? So that's, and there's supplementation that can support, but it's never going to get you fully to optimal, right? The missing pieces. So we're going to have food, we have exercise, we have, or fasting, we have exercise, supplementation, right? Rest obviously is in there, supplementation, and then BHRT is really like the full picture. And knowing where you need to go. And the reason that we do this is like, we can only get you so far with diet and exercise. And it's not, doesn't mean that we're going to do 20,000 supplements either, right? And because trust me, we can create some big protocols, and I just don't like doing that anymore. I'm like, let's get to minimum effective dose and get you results fast as possible. Who else wants to share their numbers, like their top 5?
I will.
Okay.
So number 1 is excess insulin. Then excess cortisol, low estrogen, low thyroid, and then low testosterone and serotonin are the same.
So I'm just going to write sex hormones up here. Are you on BHRT? Can't remember.
Yes.
Okay. Nope, that's not what I wanted to write in there. My brain's gone. So tomorrow, what we want to do is, because go figure, what insulin, cortisol, thyroid, low estrogen, and then you said right? So,
Low testosterone, low estrogen.
right. So the only thing that you don't have is inflammation.
Well, that's way up there. All of mine were red.
Okay, so you have inflammation as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So inflammation, I guess, would be the number 1. Sorry.
So you're our star student because you
Yes.
did all the top 5.
Yeah, I got it all.
That's great. So what that means,
That's great.
yeah, it's great. It's awesome. Okay, so all right. In the training with our hormone profile diagnostic, how we have broken things down, it's like a reverse pyramid. And you go from the top and focus down, right? But there's 16 different hormonal imbalances, right, that we talked about, including inflammation. But we always narrowed it in, or we've been able to narrow it into the top 5. So the top 5 are going to work the same way. So if inflammation is part of that equation, the first thing that we're going to do is focus on inflammation. And that's going to be, you're like, what are these protocols? You guys are going to get them tomorrow. Okay. The recipes. So you're like, what do I do? So we're focusing a regimen that's going to follow with reducing inflammation. What's really cool is every one of these build upon each other, because focusing on inflammation and then also focusing in on your hormone macro, your carb tolerance macro numbers, you're automatically going to be addressing your insulin. Now we might need to sprinkle in stuff for your cortisol, right? Because it's obvious that there's a lot of stress going on for you. And that could be as simple as adding in different adaptogens to help with your stress response. It can be as simple as the breathing technique that I did this morning, right? For you. That's something that you can do at any time of the day. You don't have to do 20 of them, right? It automatically resets things for you, right? Talking about that. But we'll go over that tomorrow. Jamie, did you do your profile?
Yep, I did it at the beginning. So my top one is inflammation, followed by low estrogen, and then a tie between the next 3,
Okay.
which is excess insulin, low progesterone, and low testosterone.
Okay. So obviously we're going to work on this and things that, and guys also know, like from here after this weekend, what's going to happen is the email is going to go out and you're going to be prompted to book a consult. And then within like, where we do a one-on-one. So I don't want you to think of like, oh my gosh, I got to get all this stuff and because your next step is to where we go through, hone a little bit of the lifestyle stuff and then book you like, to get your labs. So that's one of the things. All right. So we continue to focus on estrogen, insulin. So your type 4, following those macro numbers are going to stay. And then what's your workouts will be determined. See, like yours, Tracy, is going to be a little different, but your workouts are also going to be a little different, Jamie, because of your knees. And that's where Rye is going to talk about things tomorrow. But after we do blood work, that's when then we really hone in on what your exercise is going to be, right? Because here, estrogen, low progesterone, and testosterone, your energy is improving, which is awesome. The more inflammation you get and insulin you get down, your energy is going to improve. But boosting test and estrogen is really going to change your energy, like in a positive way, right? Dana.
I don't have mine. I had them and I had them in the spreadsheet. We didn't save it, so I've got to do them again this afternoon.
Okay.
My list.
Okay. So just you do it and have them tomorrow, because what we're going to do is I'm going to go over the top 5 hormone recipe protocols tomorrow, right? Your food is going to stay, like I'm going to keep repeating that. You are all type 4. Alicia, I wouldn't be surprised if you're a type 4 as well when it comes to your carb tolerance profile. But we'll make sure I'm going to send to you the recording from last Saturday. You don't have to watch it tonight. So Dana, you are a type 3. Okay. So you type 3 is that you gain weight easily, and also it's a struggle for you to drop it. However, No, type 3, you're moderate
Yeah,
carb
I looked
tolerance.
up when you said we were all type 4, and I'm like, no, I think I was the only type 3, and yeah, I was type 3.
And so we got to make sure that your numbers are correct for your
It says
carb
can do
tolerance.
moderate carbs. Activity is key for this type carb intolerance.
So you're moderate. So yeah, so we just do the tab, make sure that we do the tab for type 3 carb tolerance, because that's going to give you your numbers. Okay, cool beans. And then if you have your diagnostic tomorrow, as far as your top 5, so we can go through them. So tomorrow, what we'll do is we're going to go through, like I said, the 5 top the what we call recipes. And because each one of them have a specific, your food is pretty going to stay the same, right? It's choosing quality foods and then also identifying foods that you're intolerant to, but then it's about your macros. Okay. But then it's, what does your fasting schedule look like? What does the supplement regimen look like? What does your workout, what should it look like, right? Strength training wise. And those of you with different things where it will be adjusted. And then, like I said, what will happen is a follow-up email will go out to where you have a link to book the consult with me. So then we can start going over stuff even in more detail. Rye will be joining us tomorrow to explain the methodologies of strength training and why we do what we do in order to get the results that we get when it comes to your body. Does that make sense? Questions?
Lydia, should we redo the hormone diagnostics or go with what we did in the beginning?
It doesn't hurt to do the hormone diagnostic again. No, definitely, because here's what's going to change. Your inflammation numbers change. So if you did it in the beginning, do it tonight, bring the new numbers tomorrow, what your top 5 are, because that's going to change our recipe for you.
Okay. And I don't know how much I'll be able to be on. Like I said, well, we're traveling. I don't know the times, but I'll jump on when I can.
Yeah, don't stress yourself out.
My cortisol will go up.
Exactly. Don't stress yourself out. So who else? Questions?
I just have a comment. I'm actually going back through and doing mine because I realized, oh, you have to do it after the cleanse. And I can tell you my numbers are going to be way different. Just the amount of things that I'm like, yeah, I don't really have that this year. I mean, because I did it December 29th. So it's actually been a little over a month. And yeah, I'm eliminating things already. Like the things that I was tearing up and crying about are not part of this month's agenda. Let's just say that. So anyway.
How awesome is that?
Yeah, I was like, nope, nope, nope. Anyway, so it'll be different.
High five.
Yeah.
Remember, shoulders back, smile, say I'm miserable. So wrap it up from there. Anyone else have anything they want to ask? Ahas? Okay.
So tomorrow we have another session and then we do one-on-ones after that.
Yep, an email will go out to
Okay.
book a session.
Okay.
And just a heads up, and I'll repeat it tomorrow. As far as the calendar, if those times don't work, then it'll just go into a following week, right? You don't lose out. We'll just figure out the calendar. So, I've shared this before with our groups, but I want to end with this today because I'm hoping that there was some ahas that are helping you move forward. And it's really important, like I said, to stay in the environment, staying plugged into the energy source and acknowledging actually how you show up. Like I talked about my shoulders back and owning the room to shift my environment. That's what I do on a regular basis. And doesn't mean that life doesn't happen, but I wrote this a while back. It says, you haven't met the best version of you yet. You won't even remember the pain, the struggle, the season of disillusionment. Why am I tearing up? You're coming into something brand new, like really new. The Bible says in Isaiah, behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the deserts. That's Isaiah 43:19, by the way. In the Hebrew, the verse is so rich and it means I'm setting you up for a surprise. And out of nowhere, a new customized plan just for you will appear. Did you catch that? You are being set up for a surprise and it's going to feel brand new. There is even a new you that you haven't even met yet. And she's amazing. Like awesome sauce, my coach always says. I want to hang out with you with your new, I want to hang out with you, the new bad self that you are. This is the key though. The verse right before that one says, forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. To get to the new you, you have to stop dwelling on the mistakes, stop thinking about the time you've wasted, stop all the rehearsing of what went wrong. I don't know who this is for, but stop remembering already and get ready because God is about to do something new in your life. Are you guys ready to start? So he says, behold, I will do a new thing. Can you not perceive it? I'm going to leave you with that. And I'll see you guys tomorrow at 2:00. I love you guys.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.